Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
Oh, speaking of China. Okay, so it's a photo of you and your wife together close by yourselves, really. I don't see any other people on the Great Wall. So probably not, it's probably not the common parts of the Great Wall, but now I assume it's the Great Wall because that's what I just think it looks like. It looks somewhat rehabilitated in terms of the brickwork around you guys, but it's clearly a wall that goes off into the hill. Like behind you is a hill. I wouldn't call it a mountain. A hill that probably goes up, I don't know, a few hundred feet, let's say a couple of 100 meters in elevation. You're both facing the photographer. It's a sunny day, t-shirts, you're wearing a blue jacket. You're both, yeah, so just looking full on at the photographer and clearly in China. So, now wait, before we continue, what's the title of your book?
The first one was Murder for Me.
Yeah.
The second one in October is Murder by Storm.
Murder by Storm. Now we'll go back to the photo. Listen, I'm here to promote your book.
I'm not trying to promote my book. I'm into listening to you now.
Okay, so you're in China on the Great Wall. Okay, so take us on this adventure with you.
Okay. Of course, you asked about the first picture, about what does it represent to you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was talking about Proust. So this picture stimulates everything that I learned and loved, we learned and loved and experienced about China.
Okay.
That's what this picture represents. And the reason the sky is so beautifully blue
Right.
is the party was having a committee meeting in Beijing, and they had closed it down for a while so that the sky could clear, and we were there during then. So it was clear and blue. Beijing was blue sky.
Amazing.
And when we got to the Great Wall, it was a blue, beautiful sky. And there were 30 of us on the bus. We hiked up to the Great Wall. You are very perceptive in the way you described the brickwork. I thought that was the most interesting part of your description because that was the most perceptive part of your description because we were actually taken to where the tourists are taken to the Great Wall, which is where they do the brickwork, correct?
Yep.
And of the 30 people on the bus, 24 people turned right to go up the level part of the Great Wall, and 6 of us, my wife and I, because I've run 10 marathons, we're in shape. So it was us and the 4 young people on the whole bus. We turned left and we climbed the Great Wall going up the mountain, and that's actually a mountain because my wife's. By the time we got back down, my wife's iPhone step counter said she had climbed 80 stories. Now, she didn't climb 80 stories, but you go up and you go down.
Yep.
And that tells you how much it was. And that was, I got to tell you, that was one, that wasn't as great as the Wadi Rum. But it was a great, great moment in my life because, we were really that was just part the icing of the Great China adventure for us.
Nice. So how long did you guys go to China for?
3.5 weeks.
Oh, wicked. Nice.
And we went up and down the Yangtze. We went to Xi'an. A friend and I got lost in Xi'an, and we're walking down an area of town that we were not supposed to be in. And it's after dark, trying to find our way back to the hotel. And people were coming out of bars to watch us walk by. It was the craziest thing I ever saw in my life. It was very cool. The food was spectacular. We ate street food all over China.
Nice.
It was spectacular food. I have all sorts of soup dumpling opinions about different cities and
Yeah.
what I think about soup dumplings from that particular place versus like Xi'an versus Shanghai. I much prefer Shanghai dough in their soup dumplings to the Xi'an dough and what they
Okay.
put in their soup dumplings, things like that. And so it was just spectacular.
I love it. So one of the things, okay, so being in Hong Kong, I've been to China a couple of times, a few times. I loved how you described that you happened to have been there when the party was having a meeting in Beijing, so they shut down the factories so the sky could be a little bit bluer. Because yeah, so in the photo, you can see that it's a blue sky. There are no clouds in the sky. One time I went to Beijing to visit a factory, and I was there for a week, and the first half of the week happened to have been like I just when we landed or when I landed and I went to the hotel or whatever. It was like walking in a movie set of like a post-apocalyptic. It was like everything was so sooty. It was so intense, and everybody's walking around with masks, and because there was so much dirt in the air, and so for the next couple of days, and I went to go visit a factory that made electric motorcycles. So I was just like, "What? This is." You walk around. You're wearing a mask because you have to wear a mask. This was before the pandemic, and it was mind blowing. And then the next day, for whatever reason, crystal clear, beautiful blue sky. And I was just like, "Oh, wait a second." So it's funny how you just turn on the switch and it's just like the factories go off and then all of a sudden you can breathe. So I just talked. So why don't you tell us more about your experience of Beijing? Like,
Well, it's like I like Beijing was fine. Uh, the Forbidden City, I was kind of disappointed about because it seemed like a bunch of buildings put together, whereas the Summer Palace looked like
mm,
something that was made in Hollywood, kind of
right.
magical. I
Yep.
just loved it.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I love the people more than anything.
Okay.
Uh, I just love the people in China. They were good and
Yep.
kind, and they wanted to try to communicate. The only trouble was we didn't speak the same language, and our hand signals that we know that represent
Yep.
something is not the hand signals they know that represent something. So you can't hand signal to each
Yep.
other. So it's so hard to communicate. And I had this thing about seeing great Buddha, great Buddha statues.
Right.
And so that was something that I was able to do there. And China is like, if you, did you, have you watched Star Trek?
Of course. Yeah.
Did you ever watch Star Trek? Remember when there were dual universes?
Yep.
The way I think of China is it's a dual universe that looks the same.
Mm,
It appears the same, but it's different.
sure.
And it's the reason I travel. It's probably the reason you travel because unless you're actually there, you're not going to know. You're not
Of
going to
course.
know what's the same, what looks the same but is completely different, and what's not.
Right.
And there's no way. For example, in the Muslim faith, there are two measurements on an educated man. First is a book or a institutional education, but that doesn't make you an educated man. You have to also travel. That's how
Mm,
you become an educated man. I think it's right. I think the only way you can know that you don't even know that there's windows in your universe, much less being able to open it and look through it, unless you travel that those windows become available to you. They
sure.
become
I agree.
that they appear to you.
No, I totally agree.
What China did, there were so many windows that had never I didn't know existed, much less
Hmm.
looked through.
Right.
Plus soup dumplings.
What?
Plus soup dumplings.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm just having the cognitive dissonance of you're a divorce lawyer. And to be a lawyer is a very specific, not very specific, but it it's a way of thinking and seeing the world that is adversarial. that is,
Yes.
in a way confrontational. And as a
Yes.
divorce lawyer, you're there with two people not at their finest, sometimes really not at their finest. And so that's fascinating to me because you strike me as a people person, as a person who loves life. Like, how did you end up in law? And how did your brain settle, or how did you settle in that kind of world?
Okay. Remember in the third grade when I was reading all those opinion page pieces, I was reading about politicians and
Hmm.
politics, and they were lawyers.
Right.
So I wanted to be a lawyer.
Amazing.
Mm.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's like my love of
Yep.
art stems from when I was a little boy in a blue collar home, watching Bugs Bunny and watching the operas on Bugs Bunny, like Barber of Seville.
Yes, absolutely. Those shows, that music, that score, that comedy is like epic. It's so big.
It's where I learned opera. It's where I learned the love of opera.
Amazing. Russell, brother. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.